And I now invite Dr. Mohan for his comments. Dr. Mohan, please. You can unmute yourself, please.
Thank you, Dr. Hiramath, and thank you, Dr. Venkatram. Over the last hour or so, I've been enjoying 3 presentations from the doyens, and hearing it straight from the doyens themselves is a great honor. And I've learned a lot, although the trial is old, but all the new perspectives and the developments thereafter. So Dr. Venkatram actually asked me to come in to talk about the diabetes perspective, because there's often a notion that diuretic should not be used by people with diabetes, and can chlorthalidone be used? And what did the ALLHAT study show as far as the diabetogenic effect of chlorthalidone? Well, here are the facts, and let me put down 2 or 3 facts. I thought some of you may be actually presenting that, so I didn't get the slides ready, but the results were that when compared to amlodipine and lisinopril, there was a 2.8 milligram reduction increase in the fasting glucose. So it's just 2 milligram, less than 3 milligram increase in the fasting glucose. Now, when you look at the baseline and look at 4 years later, and the change among the people without diabetes, the non-diabetic people who had fasting glucose less than 126, interestingly enough, there was 11 milligram increase in all the 3 groups. So this does not seem to be specific for chlorthalidone. I wonder whether it's because all the participants were 4 years older, and therefore their fasting glucoses went up. They could have moved to the pre-diabetic range because of age. That's just a hypothesis. Now, if you look at the incidence of diabetes, how many people developed a fasting glucose above 126, it was slightly higher in the chlorthalidone group, 11.6%, compared to 9.8 with the amlodipine group and 8.1 in the lisinopril group. So all 3 groups moved up. So again, probably a function of age. 4 years at that age makes a lot of difference in the prevalence of diabetes and prediabetes, and therefore, but still there was a slight increase in the chlorthalidone group. But having said that, if you look at all the results which were presented by the 3 speakers, the fabulous results that were obtained, particularly with respect to cardiovascular disease, as well as heart failure. I mean, heart failure, chlorthalidone right out at the right end of the graph, completely away from the other 2 groups. You compare the amlodipine or with the lisinopril, was very, very impressive. And therefore, in the context of diabetes, where heart failure is so common, and we are now very excited by the newer drugs like the SGLT2 groups, which we are using now, we already have an old drug which has been proven. And that's what actually struck my eyes when I saw that. Here is a drug which we should be all using. The mention was made that chlorthalidone is underutilized, and the percentage of 9% was shown. I wonder why, because I think we should be using more of this drug. It's less expensive. It's affordable in a country like India, where it's very, very important to use that, and we are not achieving the targets. Dr. Cushman said that diuretics have very little side effects, and that's another indication that people say, oh, it can affect your potassium, to affect this, but it didn't do that. In the ALLHAT study, there was no change in potassium at all with the chlorthalidone. So the side effects part, we are not worried about. Dr. Jackson Wright mentioned that it can be used in people with diabetes, and I entirely agree. It should be used, if at all, it should be used more in people with diabetes. Dr. Welton mentioned that there's very little data from India. That's true, but the ICMR INDIAB study, which is primarily a diabetes study, but it's actually looking at hypertension and dyslipidemia in the whole country. This is actually one of the largest epidemiological studies done, 120,000 individuals, representative of India's 1.36 billion, studied in every state of the country. The first 15 states was published in Journal of Human Hypertension, 2015 March issue, and we've just completed the whole study. So the entire 30 state data will be presented, where we have the rule of halves nicely coming out, which you also showed. How many know that they have it, how many then take treatment, how many are controlled. Miserable. So if you look at the whole country, very, very depressing. That still more than 50–60% do not even know that they have hypertension. Less than half of those take treatment, and less than half of those are under control. So a long way to go. We have a paper coming out perhaps in a week or two in Lancet Diabetes Endocrinology. This is again from the ICMR INDIAB study, but this is on the total number of diabetic people in the whole survey. The self-reported diabetes, and there we are looking at the ABC. How many achieved an A1C less than 7%? How many achieved a blood pressure? We took it very conservatively. I know you said it's substandard control, but we just took 140/90 and said how many achieved that, and an LDL cholesterol of less than 100. So the ABC study, we call it. This is for the whole country now, and this will be out. I think it's in press now. It should be out in the next 2 weeks or so. So look for that. So that has data on, or at least in the diabetic population. But we also have on the whole country in the non-diabetic population. Well, we have surveyed the whole country. So very soon the 30 state, that's the whole country data, will be published on hypertension control as well. So these are the points that I wanted to say, that I think chlorthalidone is a very good drug. It should be used. And now we have more recent drugs coming in. But with that, I think old is still gold. And at least in with people with diabetes, we should not hesitate to use it. And the underutilization of this drug should be corrected, particularly for controlling systolic hypertension. Thank you. I'll stop there.